Hey, welcome back to the channel. And on this episode of the ZX7 rebuild, the 89 Ninja, we're going to start stripping and cleaning all of this stuff right here. It's kind of an arduous and laborious process, but it's got to be done. Stay tuned. Alright, so time to start the disassembly of the swing arm. I've already taken the chain slider off. And, so now I'm just going to start to see if I can get this thing loosened off. All of these so tight. Holy smokes. You hear that, eh? Those things are just on there. I'm going to take these pinch bolts out as well. Okay, so I've got this is the new chain guard that goes on the front, which was missing. I've taken all the welding material off here, and that's where the new piece here, so it's in the bag, I don't really take it out right now, but yeah, there's a new piece that I cut there to go on here. I'll get welded on there. I'm just going to take this over to the place for the guy to weld it up, and also he's going to weld up these guys, rebuild those up. But the new bracket, I basically just cut it out of a piece of aluminum angle iron that I've got laying around here in the shop. Got a big huge chunk of it here, so it comes in pretty handy for that kind of stuff. So hopefully you can weld that on. I'm going to leave the chain guard with it because I think it'll be easier for him to get it positioned properly. I've come to the conclusion just by trial fitting that bracket that it's going to be pretty much impossible to get it right without that bracket being included there. So I'm gonna drop that off as well, and yeah, let's see what he can do for me. Yeah, so I just dropped off the swing arm to the guy for welding, and while I was there, his eyes picked up the fact that the actual main tube that the swing arm bolt goes through on that thing is also cracked. So he's going to see if he can weld that up, and hopefully that doesn't warp in the process. So these are the little fairing supports or outriggers that go, they attach to the main twin spar frame there, and the fairings attached to this stuff. And yeah, these are the ones that they've been chromed or something, and also they've been mangled. You can see that's supposed to be straight. So both ends of this have been tortured. So I'm just starting to bash these back into shape, and then these will go back on the bike. They were the wrong way around, so they'll go back on the right side. This one still has a bit of a twist in it, so I'm going to try to just tweak it ever so slightly. Getting there, slowly but surely. See, they're all getting straightened out. Getting there. Okay, so I'm going to do some welding. This is my old Mastercraft Canadian tire welder. I've had this thing for, I don't know, 20, 25 years. I've only just actually started using it. I got a deal on it through a friend. Dial off the front is broken on it. I have no gas. I'm only using it as flux core. But anyway, for the little bits and bobs that I tend to do, it'll be fine. You're about to see the extent of my hot metal glue gun skills at work here. What I've done is, this is the one with the, has a missing nut on the back. So I just put a bolt in there just to hold the nut in place. And I'm going to see if I can tack that on. Let's see how that goes. So I got my auto darkening mask here. This is just a cheap one off Amazon, but it works really well. That should do the trick. It's not pretty, but it will work. So I was wrong about that actually being good enough and working. It did not work. Yeah, all the welds have just kind of broken off, so I'm not getting sufficient penetration in the weld. So probably not enough heat. I need to crank up the heat a little bit, I guess, and maybe I've got the wire feed down almost as low as it'll go, but and now I can't get this bolt out of the nut, so it's probably must have warped on there or something. So I'm having to hacksaw the bolt off. Okay, so how's that saying go? If at first you don't succeed, try again. So we're gonna try again. These are the only metric nuts I have, so they do look black, and that's because they are. But what I've done is I filed off the finish underneath and on the sides, and I've took a grinder to this as well. Try to get through past the copper to the metal. I turn up the heat to the next available setting on the welder. So we'll see what that does. Another try here. Got my wire cut down a little closer as well. It's not pretty. Definitely more heat going into that, that's for sure. Well, it's better than it was, I think. I take the chipping hammer to it, and it's not pretty, but I think a little bit of time with the grinder and it'll be better, I guess. I don't know, maybe I needed just a couple of spots or blobs on there, but anyway, you know what I'm saying. I'm still learning. So it's solid. I just took the grinder to it just to see if there's any slag or anything on the top, and I hit it with the chipping hammer, and then the bolt goes through it, so it's on there. And now look at that. Now you put them side by side. It's hard to tell the difference between OEM and True-Moto-Resto. Ha, not really. But it'll do the trick. Yeah, so what I did was I went from a setting of 2 on the heat cycle here over to 3, which is as far as I can go on the current amperage of the circuit that I'm on here. I'd have to I haven't got enough extension cord of heavy duty enough to go to, I think this is, I haven't got my glasses on, however many amps that says. But anyway, yeah, this is as far as I can go on the current circuit. And I had the wire speed dialed way back. To be honest, I'm not really sure how good this wire speed controller is. It's like kind of a cheap welding unit, but clearly I was getting much better heat and penetration with that heat turned up and the wire feed turned down. So, you know, I'm learning as I go, but the good thing is at least I'm learning. So we'll call it a good day for that. All right, so I got all these sandblasted today and etch primed. So these are going to get a coat of Imron 3.5 Industrial Black. And that should look good, I think. All right, it's all nice and dry. Turned out pretty well. This Imron paint is pretty heavy duty stuff, so that should wear very well. Okay, this morning's job is going to be removing the brake discs from the wheels, because I have to take the wheels in to get tires removed tomorrow morning. So in the past I've used just kind of a propane bottle with the screw on top with the you know, the trigger activated flame thing, but I upgraded to this one, and I'm going to use some MAP gas, which is burns a little hotter, because in the past I've struggled with brake rotor bolts, you know, depending on which manufacturer it is and what kind of Loctite's been used, or previous owners Loctiting them on or not. It can be quite a challenge if you don't get enough heat into it. So that is the job for this morning. All right, so that seemed to work quite well. That MAP gas torch really pumps the heat out. The one thing I will say though is the tips on those things tend to get really hot. You probably saw it glowing red even though it was in time lapse. So you just got to be careful when you put them down. I've been leaning it against the one of the, either the ratchet or the hammer or the breaker bar there, because you don't want that touching a wooden floor. Definitely starting to burn it, but that. So far so good. We'll move on and do the rear tire, and I'm going to go back probably and take out the speedo drive out of that one as well. So onwards. There is some sort of Loctite on these, so, and they seem to be made of chocolate. These bolts sometimes, so to me it's just always better, safer to give them a bit of heat and break the bond of that Loctite on there. So on the push drive side, the bearing on this side is kind of pretty much flush with the outside edge of the wheel hub. On this side, this is the rear wheel, of course. It's kind of recessed, and there's a clip in there. See the holes there for putting in the circlip removers. So I'm going to get basically I'm taking all of the hardware out. I'm going to leave the bearings in for the moment, but they will be getting changed. I'm just taking out all of the hardware so that when they go in for the tire removal, nothing is going to get lost. Not that these things are going to kind of jump out of anywhere, but that's the plan anyway. So let me fish these guys out. Okay, tires are off. And so now I can set about cleaning all of this stuff. Still waiting for the swing arm to come back. It's been 4 or 5 days, so I'm hoping that I hear back from the place in the next couple of 3 days that that's finished and ready to pick up. At some point in the life of these wheels, they were painted. So that's the original green right there. This is a ghastly shaded green. Well, I really shouldn't say it's ghastly because it's really not too far off some of the shades of green on my Bandit, my Skull Bandit. But yeah, either way, that's you know, I'll have to strip these wheels back. The raw aluminum, which is the majority of the wheel, will get sanded, and then everything is going to get coated with epoxy primer. So when you're painting aluminum, it's the best way to get good paint adhesion is to epoxy coat it. Epoxy tends to stick much better to aluminum than say a conventional like etching primer or something like that. So all this stuff is going to get epoxy coated, and the plan will be I'm going to do all the epoxy at one time, and then the wheels can kind of sit. They're going to get painted at the same time as all the bodywork in the same green. But the same day I do the epoxy, I'm going to paint and clear coat the frame. The good thing about that is I think it's about 24 to 36 hours or something like that. You can paint right over top of the epoxy without sanding it again. The paint will adhere very well. If it goes more than the 36 hours, then you've got to sand the epoxy to get proper adhesion. So that's what's going to have to happen with the wheels. They're going to get scuffed up after the epoxy has dried, and that way I'll get good adhesion with the green paint. And some of you I know are now asking, if this is the first time you've tuned into one of my videos or the series on the channel, you'll be saying, hey, how come you're not powder coating all this stuff? Why don't you powder coat the wheels? Why don't you powder coat the frame? Well, there's a reason. That reason is I live up north in Ontario, Northern Ontario, and we have one powder coater up here, and they suck. In a word, they suck. So I refuse to take my stuff there anymore. I had several VF1000R frames done, and every time I had to take them back and have them stripped, and then I ended up having to paint them with base clear because the job they did was so bad. One was like a stucco bathtub. It was so rough, and the other looked like the surface of the moon. It was just kind of all ripples and orange peel, and so probably a combination of too much powder and not enough heat. Something like that. I'm not a powder coating expert, but either way, there is no way that I'm going to go back there and trust them with this kind of job anymore. So one day, maybe there'll be another powder coater in town, and I can give them a try. But for the moment, I can get better results doing it myself with base clear, and so there you go. That's why. So I'm just on the way to the place where I took my swing arm to be welded. It's been over a week. I knew they couldn't do it in the first couple of days. They told me that, but it was supposed to have been done kind of Monday, Tuesday this week, and we're now Thursday. And I called them yesterday just to check how things were going. They said, "Oh, we haven't done it yet. I'm not sure when we can get to it. Not sure if we can get to it." And I said, "Well, let me know. Let me know this morning, because if you can't get it done, you know, I want to take it somewhere else." All right, so we're taking it to a different guy. This is his shop. I know this guy is welding because he's done some stuff for me years ago when he worked at another place, and he is good. So we should be able to get this done, hopefully. I don't know how long it'll take, but we'll find out. So the swing arm is back from the welding shop 24 hours later. I am very happy that he was able to get this sorted out for me. So this is the new bracket that I had fabricated from a piece of aluminum angle iron, or if you're in the UK, aluminium. This one was kind of all worn down from the chain, so we kind of fixed that up. This was stripped out here, so we filled that, drilled it and retapped it for me. And then the other thing that was a problem is these two ears were basically cracked off halfway. So he built those back up. There was also a crack in the top part of this. So yeah, took that off, cleaned it up, welded it, welded it all, and it's good to go. So now I can set about the task of cleaning all of this stuff. Oh, the other concern that the other guy had was that this was a crack here, and it isn't. What it actually is the when somebody stripped all the paint or powder coat off this, they didn't strip it off this section, so it was just the line where the polished aluminum met the unremoved powder coating or paint, so it just looked like a crack line. Similarly here, you can see if you look really closely, it looks like it's cracked there, but it isn't. It's just there's powder coating or paint here, and there isn't any there. So he kind of checked a number of spots that looked a bit shady, satisfied himself that there were no other cracks or issues. And so now I get the joyous task of cleaning all of this stuff and getting it ready for paint. So that will be the next job. So stay tuned for that. There we go, first snowfall of the year. Not a huge snowfall, but a snowfall nonetheless. October 27th. Well, it's supposed to get back up to about 19 degrees Celsius in a couple of days, but this is the sign of things to come. Be quiet. You're making too much noise up there. Quiet. All right, so this morning's job is to get started on cleaning up swing arm and frame. And what I normally use for this is just a combination of, this is kerosene, just the garden variety of stuff that you can get at the hardware store for camping stoves and whatnot. And what I have in here is just a mix of diesel and WD-40. Stuff, it just works fine for getting the thick grime off, and you scrub it with a toothbrush. Once I've got the bulk of everything off, then I'll just hit it with some brake clean, parts cleaner, and that'll get all the greasy residue off and that kind of thing. And then at the very end, it'll be a wipe down with acetone before I start sanding it, getting it ready for the actual process of putting the epoxy primer on it. So I'm going to I'll fast forward through a bunch of this stuff. I'm not going to make you watch all of that because you've seen one piece of metal cleaned, you've seen them all, but you get the idea. So really nothing too magical going on here. This is just, this is just a long and laborious process of scrubbing and cleaning and, wash, rinse, repeat type of thing. So this is the first pass. You kind of get the bulk of the crud off. And then now I gotta kind of try to get into places like this, where all the dirt and the rocks and the chain gook and all that kind of stuff tends to collect. It'll be up on the end side there too, back side of this. So yeah, it's just it's just part of the process. It's not the most pleasant of jobs, but you do it maybe three or four times, and by the time you get through the end of it, it'll be nice and clean. So you got to get underneath all of these spots under here. You can still see all the grime under there, but so that's kind of the first go at it, the first kick at the can. And yeah, we'll keep on at it, and I'll bring you back once we've got them all cleaned up. and you can see how it looks. Right, so this is just after the first cleaning. This doesn't mean that there are not marks on here. It doesn't mean that there are not stains on here. What it just means is that all the grime and the crap and the chain oil and the grease and whatnot has been removed. So the next step now is to start to prepare this for paint. So which involves basically, you know, what you would just generally expect, right? It's going to be sanded, scuffed up, because this frame has been, for the most part, it's been polished up. Certainly the main part of the frame has, the spring arm has, part of the rear subframe, but not all, and none of that front subframe yoke, I'll call it. That hasn't been stripped or polished. But the other thing that has to happen, like this sort of adhesive has to get removed off here. You can see through some of the silver paint down to the original black epoxy primer. That's no big deal. It's just going to get all sanded smoother. And yeah, that's about it really. It's fairly straightforward stuff now. There's a lot of glue residue here and there. You can see it on the rear subframe there. So all that kind of nonsense has to be removed. And that's about it. It's just an ongoing iterative process of getting this stuff ready for going to the paint booth. But the other thing that has to happen here is there's a number of imperfections which are going to have to be just kind of dealt with for anything that's kind of highly visible sort of thing. So there's some marks here. So some of this stuff I may try to fill that and smooth it in a little bit just for aesthetics only. There's some rough edges where probably in the past the chain has let go and it's kind of created a really rough edge there. So that'll get removed with a file just to kind of clean that up a little bit. So just tidied up before we throw paint at it. And the other thing that'll happen, because there's a lot of fastener tabs and holes here with threads in them, all of those are going to have to get filled with plugs of some sort, whether they're rubber plugs or cork plugs or just stuff made of tape, just to make sure that I don't get epoxy and paint and clear coat in those threads, because you could spend a crazy amount of time chasing threads cleaning paint out. It's just way easier to, you know, fill those holes with something before you start chucking paint at it, because epoxy is pretty thick, and then when you add the paint and the clear coat on top of that, it just kind of gets thicker and thicker. So here's some of the stuff I use. So these are just kind of little rubber plugs, and I didn't buy these. These actually were stuck in one of my VFR frames when I got it back from the powder coater. I guess they used them to stop the sand getting into all of the wrong places, but it's about the only thing they did right on that job. But then I've got all kinds of other corks, and even I keep the old, these are my ear plugs for when I ride the bike, and they work really good. See those pink and yellow things? Earplugs, foam earplugs, work really well for stuffing into thread holes to stop paint getting in there. So that's something else that I will use, because there's a lot of stuff to get plugged up on here before it goes into the paint booth. So I decided to strip the inside of these wheels. I'm going to take off all of this green paint. You can see I've already started to put the paint remover on there. And the reason I've done that is I don't want too many layers of paint kind of building up on here. So the lighter green there is the original paint. The darker green is another probably base clear that was put on there at some point. But since I'm going to be epoxying this and doing base clear again, I just don't want excessive buildup on there. And then the other reason is it's just kind of good to get rid of anything that's, you know, especially this darker green. I mean, I'm sure it's just a traditional base clear solvent-based paint, but it just kind of removes any doubt when you head to the paint booth and you start spraying stuff that you're not going to have any sort of compatibility issues. Probably wouldn't with an epoxy primer, but you know, why take the chance? So I'm just going to strip all of that off both the wheels. All right, so this is the third. I'm just putting the paint remover on for the third time. So this is what it looks like after two goes at it. So this should be the last run, and then this rim should be good. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And the next time that you see me on the ZX7 stuff, all of this should be finished. Well, finished with sanding, and we should be headed to the paint booth for epoxy, primer, and some paint on the silver stuff. So in the meantime, I'll get the stuff sanded, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.